Tara.
It's Jen.
And we are here with another episode of Girlfriends Talk Marketing. And today we are talking with a very special guest who has actually been thriving during the coronavirus times for his business. So we're really excited to be hearing from his expertise and his best practices in regards to the new way of doing business. And we're specifically going to be speaking today about logos and brand appearances and why, this is very important for businesses in general.
Yeah, today we have David Gilman. Hi, David.
Hi there. Hi, Jen. Hi, Tara.
So David is the founder and CEO of Cognito, which is, the opposite of incognito, which is what you don't want your business to be, right? He has 24 years of experience in this field doing graphic design and branding. Prior to founding Cognito, he was the art director and graphic designer, associate art director and graphic designer of Boston University's Corporate Education Center.
David, companies have always put a very high value on their logo, and now is no exception when we're really trying to stand out. What are companies finding different, and what are you seeing and hearing from clients when they come to you with particular projects?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been in the industry now for about 25 years, started my company almost 20 years ago, and one massive change that I've seen in the way companies put value on logos and the way that logos have changed comes down to one word: options. Companies now more than ever have so many options to choose from when it comes to designing a logo. What I mean by that is, years ago, you typically went to a graphic designer or an agency who designed your logo. But now there's companies now like 99designs.com, there's Fiverr, there's agencies, there's designers, there's now competitions where you can actually have a pool of like 50 people designing to compete to win the logo. So now the decision maker is now bombarded with so many decisions on how to find a logo. And while it's great that they have options, the downside is there's so much competition now, it's dramatically brought the price down to what a logo costs. So with Fiverr, if either one of you are familiar with it, you can get a logo these days for $5. But
wow,
it kind of reminds me of a story I once heard about a barbershop. Like one day a barbershop, charged $20 for a haircut. And then one day the competition moved right across the street and put up a sign that said, "We charge $10 a haircut." So the $20 barber pretty much lost all their business because everybody was going across the street. But it wasn't until the barber across the street actually put up another sign that says, "We fix $10 haircuts," did he regain all his business back. And I don't think the story is true, but
I love that story. Yeah.
It makes a good analogy. Is you get what you pay for, and there's certain things that should be left up to the professionals because it takes time to do things right, and you can't take on too much business where you can't provide the right quality. So once on a LinkedIn post, I actually put out there, "We fix $5 and $10 logos." I've actually picked up a lot of clients who have actually tried to go the low cost route. And not to say that there's some good low cost designers out there, but they're really hard to find. So I've picked up a lot of new clients fixing up the people who've tried to pay for the really low cost logo designers because they don't really necessarily do the things that professionals do.
So let's talk a little about what the professionals do. When a company comes to you and they want a logo, they want a new logo or a redesign, what are the kinds of things that you talk to them about? What are the kinds of things that a company should be thinking about?
I've often seen that my approach to asking the questions to the client is somewhat, in many cases, nearly identical to that of a marketer. Because as a marketer and even as a designer, what we really want to know is to really get to know the company. We want to know who they are, who's their target audience, what is their unique value proposition, who is their ideal client, who is their competition, what is their personality of kind of the culture like. By having the insight and the answers to all these questions, it kind of starts kind of like formulate kind of a picture of who they are and who their target audience is. And that actually starts to kind of generate some concepts and ideas. I guess to kind of give you an example, of that is a company called Meeting Makers. They had actually been working with a lot of designers. In fact, they had a pool of 7 different designers presenting them a variety of concepts, and none of the ideas were hitting. But what I was noticing is the questions weren't really pulled out from the other designers. I kind of came in with like a marketer approach, and I want to really understand Meeting Makers, who they were, how they were different. And I found out that they were kind of a young, hip company that actually formulated incentive trips to people and companies who were like the top performers, and they would send them around the world to like Tahiti or Hawaii or Jamaica as a way to kind of reap the rewards on the jobs that they did. So they wanted kind of a cool looking logo. So here's the Meeting Makers logo. And again, their whole mission about who they are and who their audiences were was about kind of a young, hip culture. They were playful. They weren't too serious. They did their job serious, but they actually kind of kept things fun. So if you look at the logo on the left-hand side, it's a little rigid. It doesn't really have much personality. Don't even really know what the concept was, where there's an eye, ear, and mouth. But after I sat down and gathered all the insight, I kind of came up with a what can be seen as what I call a people chain. It kind of gives the impression that there's people connecting, coming together in a playful way, but also is serious as well, added some vibrancy with the colors, and actually chose a font that works really well on the web, as they did a lot of their connecting with clients and stuff through the web. And they were really thrilled with that logo, and they really felt that that hit the mark. So it was basically by my questionnaire allowed me to kind of really get the sense of who they are and who their target audience is, and then to put forth a mark that they were really proud of.
That's really cool. I
Yeah,
love
that's
that.
great.
I love that connection. Yeah, it's really, it does,
Yeah.
that logo tells a story, really.
So as you're going through this process, and we love, as you know, we have a lot of marketers that tune into the show, and we ourselves are marketers. We love when we hear that you're doing the real research on who you're reaching, you know, who they're trying to reach, what they're trying to accomplish, because all of that does play into, you know, overall success. So can you talk to us a little bit about what companies miss when it comes to their logo design? I'm sure, you know, if you're doing a lot of projects that require fixing up, some are kind of coming to you with, you know, something that they're not happy with, as the example that you just showed. So can you talk to us about, if you are thinking of a logo design, what you definitely need to be including, and what is oftentimes missed during that process that you can kind of fill in the gaps when clients come to you?
Yeah, certainly. That's an interesting point too, as well, Tara. It actually brings the keyword that Jen said just a moment ago, and the keyword is story. I feel a lot of people are missing out on the fact that a logo can in fact tell a story. And one thing that connects us as human beings is storytelling. Stories are memorable, they're engaging, and they're emotional, and then we remember them so much more than something that's just rather just logic. And a great example of a logo that I can share with you that kind of makes the point, and also shows how kind of a lot of people are missing the mark, is a logo called The Vet. So this here is a company called The Vet, and their whole mission is all about helping veterans who have gone away from war, who then come back suffering a lot of post-stress traumatic disorder, and actually just having really negative emotions and making it hard for them to cope in life. So they have a program that actually teaches them how to kind of deal with their emotions and get back to a normal part of society. So in asking some of the questions that I had mentioned before, I got to really know who they are. And really the essence of the company is having a very compassionate approach towards military members to bring them into a path of healing. So I'm not sure if you can see all the stories that I put in there. What 3 things do you see in that logo?
I see dog tags.
I see a Band-Aid too, like healing. And obviously the American flag for our United States veterans, and a heart.
That's
Caring.
you named all of them. I think That's the very first time I've ever heard dog tag. I've never heard that one, but now that you say that, I can see that. Somebody actually even brought to my attention, they said a blue teardrop. And that
Oh
was
yeah.
Oh,
something in there. I do actually, I'll do a new share where actually I have what I call a storyscape. And this actually is kind of shows the reasoning and the elements that I purposely wanted to put in there to represent their mission, who they are. So there's the heart, as Tara said. I'm glad you saw the Band-Aid. That I actually kind of did it so it's a little bit subliminal to kind of make an aha.
Yeah, it's so
See it.
great.
And then the flag for kind of
Yeah.
the patriotism. And so the majority of the logos that I design, I want to put an emotional or a storytelling element in there, because that's really kind of, to me, that's like the essence of the organization, who they are, what they're trying to do. And I also did it in a way of who they're trying to appeal to, because I don't want just a mark for the mark. I want the mark to really make an emotional connection and appeal to its target audience. And of course, I also like it to appeal to the owners and all the people in the company as well, so they have a more stronger connection to the company.
yeah. How important is it to be um, literal or not literal in a logo? In other words, a lot of logos, I know that there's like hidden stories in there. How important is it to, how important are those hidden stories?
I've often asked myself that, and it's not to say that I need to kind of put in this kind of compelling story into every logo. Like the main purpose of a logo in its essence is to distinguish a company and make it recognizable. So for example, if you think of the Target logo, some people criticize that logo, but I like it because it's simplicity and it's really strong and bold. It's very difficult to be simple in a logo. They're usually often overcomplicated. So while Target shows just a target, it doesn't really show them, it doesn't really convey who they are, what they do. But when through branding, you get to know who they are and what they do, and you can recognize that sign like a half mile away. You know exactly it's Target. So there is an aspect of a logo that can just be actually just to have a really strong mark. But again, you kind of have to do a lot of branding and spend a lot of money. And in the example of Target, they've spent millions of dollars to now make you know exactly who they are when you see their logo, even though it's not so descriptive on who they are or doesn't have a big story behind it.
Oh yeah, you know right away. There's no questioning what that one is. What do companies miss out on when it comes to their logos, or what things do they not think about that they should be thinking about?
One of the biggest mistakes that I've seen done in logos, and this actually comes from a technical standpoint more than the creative standpoint, and that's to realize that the life of the logo has quite a journey in front of it from the moment it's created, especially today where you've got the web and you've got print. So, and of course you've got promotional items. A lot of companies don't take in consideration that at some point the logo is going to have to be reduced really small. So I say to people, you really have to make the logo work for the minute and the massive. It's easy to make sure that the logo is going to work at a massive scale, such as on a billboard, because it's not really going to hide any imperfections. But when you reduce a logo, whether it's going to be put on maybe a shirt, or if you're going to be a sponsor of a logo, or be put on a pen if you're going to be doing a trade show, if that logo doesn't reduce well, the logo hasn't been designed properly. I even recall once I was setting up a trade show banner for a technology trade show, and there was about 12 logos that were going to be put on the bottom of the banner as corporate sponsors. You've probably all seen that before. And one of the logos was designed really dark. And so when I placed it on the banner, I called the president of the company and I said, right now your logo isn't translating very well. Can you provide me the knockout or reverse, which is the technical term for an all white logo? And they're like, what I gave you is all we have. And I said, well, you're kind of being hidden in the background. And we actually called that story the Black Blob story, because it looked like a black blob on a dark background and their logo was not seen. And they didn't really realize that at some point in time, your logo is probably going to have to be done in all white so it can be set on a dark background. Or on the other hand, it's going to be be able to be reduced really small, so you can put yourself on the little side of a pen when you hand it out as a promotional item.
So in other words, pay
Yep.
attention to the silhouette.
Yes. And while that might seem like an important thing to do, and it is, I believe that every logo should be able to be reversed. If you think of the Nike logo, the Starbucks logo, the Target logo, the IBM logo, if you think of a lot of logos, they might look simplistic to us, but they were done in the purpose of knowing that they could reverse easily and scale down really small. And actually, if you think about them, they've been around for decades and they still look timely. So it's not easy by any means to actually make a simplistic logo that captures the essence of their company, and it reduces well, and it will also be done in reverse. That's why most designers will say one of the greatest challenges they've ever done in their life is to design a logo. And I say that every time, because you have to take all those things in consideration to actually make it work and make it successful.
Yep. Yeah, that's so true. And you do bring up a point in terms of, and I don't think, I'm not surprised that a lot of people miss that, because I just don't think that people think about those things when they are kind of, brainstorming what their logo should be, but it's such an important factor. What projects are you working on now? Like, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, one project that I'm currently working on right now, and one thing, it's really interesting times right now with what's going on with the pandemic. Just like there were in the past, there's a company that started in Hudson called Clearview Dermatology, and they reached out and they wanted a logo. And then they wanted some additional elements, what I call a brand identity. So one thing I really love doing is starting the company with a logo, and that's where most agencies start, because the moment you start to design a logo, you're already thinking somewhat of a personality. You're adding colors, which actually there's psychology of colors and there's a lot of meaning behind them. Certainly can't go into that right now. There's colors, there's shapes, and there's fonts. And fonts too have personalities that convey things. So usually it all starts out with a logo, and then everything beyond there that kind of gets built upon that. So I designed this logo for Clearview Dermatology. And then as they were having a grand opening, they wanted a lot of things that included both interior signage, exterior signage, rack cards, sales sheets, introductory letters, COVID signs that were going to be placed in and around the office to make sure that people were social distancing. So if you look at all these various projects, they all have one thing in common, and that's consistency. They all share the same type. They all, or font as people call it. It all has the same colors across all of it, and it actually has all the same kind of a similar symbol across of it. So that brings across consistency, which then makes it more recognizable, and then it makes the company stand out more. So that's one project that I'm working on right now that I love. I love to bring the cohesion, the consistency, and the recognition to a company.
So now you also have a newsletter, and I want to encourage everybody to sign up for that newsletter, because it comes out once a month and you always have some great examples of what to do, what not to do.
Oh, thanks, Jen. Yeah, so the way that people can find me and also to be able to get that newsletter is, I call it the eye-opening secrets, that I put out once a month on the first Thursday of every month at 11. And they're stories that kind of teach people how they can kind of stand out, be different, or give examples of how companies have done that. So if you go to my website, cognitocreative.com, there's a sign up form. And also if people want to reach me on LinkedIn, I'm listed as David Gilman, and I believe the only one in Massachusetts. I also put out a daily post that goes out every day, Monday through Friday at 11, that also has miniaturized eye-opening secrets, and shares examples on color, typography, logos, and brand identity that kind of gives ideas on how companies can stand out.
Fantastic.
Awesome. That's such great stuff. Well, thank you so much for sharing this insight. It's been really helpful. And also congratulations on your business growth, during this time too. Based on all the information that you shared with us today, it's no wonder that your business is doing really well. You know what you're doing and you know how to make brands really stand out. Beautiful work. And as you put it, storytelling. Thank you so much for joining us. And we really appreciate you coming on. And obviously anyone that's tuned in, please reach out to David if you have any questions or need a logo refresh.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. Great. David, it's been good talking with you.
Same here. Thank you very much, Jen. Thank you very much, Tara.
All right. We'll
Thank
see everybody
you.
next
Have a great
time.
day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.